Aha! I told you I'd review one of our own Singaporean produced films, and here it is. It's called Ilo Ilo, or its Chinese title 爸妈不在家. It's the feature film directional debut of local filmmaker Anthony Chen, and it's also a film that took Singapore by storm by being the first Singaporean film to win the Camera d'Or award at Cannes 2013. Hell, I'm even surprised that this film actually has a Rotten Tomato critical consensus. Now, I haven't seen many locally produced films for a long time. The last one I saw was A Boys to Men Part 2. Oh, don't even get me started on what I thought of that film. But I'm honestly glad that films like Ilo Ilo exist. It's not a film without its issues, but it's a gentle reminder that our local film industry is still capable of producing great films of art. Ilo Ilo is set during the 1997 Asian financial crisis, where many Singaporeans are losing their jobs and struggling to make ends meet. The film centers around a family which consists of Teck, a glass company salesman, Hui Ling, his wife who does an admin job who recently has to type a lot of these types of letters, and their rather mischievous 10-year-old son Jiale. Hui Ling is pregnant, so the couple decided to hire a Filipina domestic helper, Teresa, or Terry as the family calls her, to help out with the household chores. Jiale does not take kindly towards the new maid and treats her with hostility.
You share room with Jiale 啊？
不要，
要跟我吵啊？
每次有人来都是我跟别人睡。
等你睡 kitchen 啊。
Now, if you had or once had a domestic helper like myself, you'll probably notice that the initial unpleasant treatment towards the maid seems a little unrealistically overdone. I certainly don't remember being this resentful towards a new maid. Even Anthony Chen admits it. Well, he said he was written that way for a dramatic effect, but yeah, it's something that didn't seem that plausible to me. Jiale's mischief leads him to an accident and his attitudes towards Terry start to change. I'm sure a lot of people know at this point that Jiale has a full frontal nude scene in the shower. I'm not gonna show you the whole scene, but I'll just say it had me laughing unintentionally and uncomfortably. I mean, just listen to this.
What do you think I've not seen before? I've seen bigger ones.
On a more serious note, from a visual standpoint, Ilo Ilo has the best direction of photography I've seen compared to many other local films. It has a very strong sense of visual aesthetic with its heavily color graded sepia look. The film is also ostensibly made up of many handheld shots, but here's where I find personally that this documentary handheld look kinda clash a little bit with the heavily controlled and color graded look. I mean, usually with this kind of extensively graded shots, we would expect more traditional, steadier camera movement, but you don't see a lot of this kind of normal steadicam or dolly shots. It definitely looks unique and interesting with this blend of handheld cam and heavy color grading, but it's certainly not how I would have shot it, but then again, any film director will say the same. I also must mention that the filmmakers really made a commendable effort to make a 1998 Singapore look authentic. I've seen glaring anachronisms in other local period films and shows, but here I can barely spot them. Even if they had to show Changi Airport, they shot it cleverly so as not to expose those anachronisms, since Changi Airport looks very different back then compared to today. The story, it's fairly loose and does not necessarily follow the traditional 3-act structure. It's mainly presented as a series of unfortunate events that happen to the family. These are interesting scenes by themselves, but they felt loosely connected with one another. But I think the real problem I had with the story is that it never reaches an intense breaking point or climax. As a result, when something dramatic happens at the end, it didn't hit me emotionally as well as it probably should. I also noticed there's a surprisingly lack of music throughout the film too. It seems like a deliberate choice. I guess the choice not to use music gives the film a sense of honesty, trying not to make things too melodramatic. I have to give credit to the film for understanding the importance of subtlety and not over-dramatizing. Although for me personally, I wish they have made the story to have a slightly more emotional peak near the end. But even with these story issues, it does not take away from what I think is the real appeal of the film, the excellent performance and casting. Chen Tianwen as the father, Liu Yanyan as the mother, Angeli Bayani as the maid, Ko Jiale as Jiale. They all delivered very good performances. Even Jiale, who has no prior acting experience, did a decent job. If only the story had the intense emotional peak I was talking about earlier, these actors would have been given an even better opportunity to shine. So that's what you gotta get with Ilo Ilo. It's a very good looking, well made period drama with some mild blemishes.
Teresa, I'm his mother, not you.
As I was watching this Blu-ray in my setup, it seemed to look pretty good at my 10 feet viewing distance from my 42-inch screen at first. However, as I moved closer to the screen, I started to spot noticeable compression artifacts and digital grain upon closer inspection, something that video files will undoubtedly complain about. I'm not sure what happened during the Blu-ray transfer process, but the image definitely does not look ideal. I mean, if you don't care too much about video quality, the video will look fine from a distance, but for a film that put a lot of effort into the visuals, it's rather disappointing to have this issue tarnish the quality of the transfer. But it's not like the film looks like it transferred from standard def. I mean, at first glance, it does look like it comes from a HD source. It's just that the compression artifacts will be a significant problem when viewed on larger screens. So I guess it's generally okay, but video files be warned. So something interesting about the audio that was on the box, it says wow, Dolby 3HD with sampling rate at 96 kHz, which is actually higher than most Hollywood Blu-ray audio tracks at 48 kHz. I'm surprised that this disc even had a surround sound mix, because I remember Our Boys to Men was heavily marketed to be mixed in fancy Dolby Atmos, but the DVD only shipped with a stereo sound mix. Obviously this sets high expectations for the audio quality. And you know what? It's very good. It's not mind-blowing, but it's crisp and clear throughout. For one thing, it actually knows that dialogue is supposed to come from the center channel. You may think that's a basic thing in mixing surround sound, but I've seen one local film where the dialogue came from all the channels, which was incompetent to say the least. Thank God this one got it right. It's also very well balanced too. At no point did I have to reach out for my remote to adjust the volume because the dialogue is too soft. Of course, in a quiet movie like this, the subwoofer is rarely used, but it is used when appropriate, like this scene in the car scrapyard. So what else can I say? For what it is, it sounds good. There are no extra features on this disc, so I guess it's time to conclude. Overall, I'm very pleased with Ilo Ilo. It's a great debut for director Anthony Chen. I really hope to see more local films like this from here on in. Less of films with blatant intrusive advertising and product placement, and more of films that make stepping stones in nurturing our growing film industry as a legitimate art form, like this one. I also hope films like this get more exposure in our media so that we know we have talented local filmmakers like Anthony Chen and Royston Tan. As for this Blu-ray, I think I only recommend a purchase at a discount due to the lack of extra features, but whether you buy it or rent it, this film is definitely worth checking out either way.